China's Great Wall. People have been building walls all over the country for many thousands of years. There are walls that hold up the roof of your house, walls that hold up your school, and walls that make up the many buildings you see throughout your day. Some walls, however, are very special and are known all over the world. This wall in the picture you're looking at is called Hadrian's Wall. This wall is in Great Britain. This wall is called the Western Wall. This one was made by Jewish people and is in Jerusalem. This wall is a very famous wall. This is called the Great Wall of China, and it's probably the most famous wall of all. It snakes along over 4,000 miles of land in northern China. It was built to keep enemies out. The story of this Great Wall begins in the cold, dry lands north of the Yangtze and the Yellow Rivers. You see, China is one of the largest countries in the world, and its borders take up a great amount of land. The land across this vast territory can be very, very different. Some areas, like the river valleys of the Yellow and the Yangtze rivers you have already learned about, are very fertile. Remember that word? Fertile means that lots of crops can grow there. In the land far north of these rivers, it is very cold and dry, and almost no crops grow there. The people who lived in the cold, dry north had to make their living in other ways. Long ago, in these cold northern lands beyond the boundaries of China, a group of nomads lived by raising animals. They rode on horses, herding sheep and goats from place to place in search of grass for grazing. Life was very hard for these people. Perhaps that is why they became such fierce warriors. That means they were very good fighters. These northern nomads regularly crossed over the boundary into China on horses, and they stole food and gold and animals. The Chinese thought of many ways to keep the attackers out. All along the northern border of China, the Chinese people built walls of earth, stone, and wood. The materials they used depended upon what was readily available in the areas that they lived. For hundreds of years, the Chinese built many separate walls to keep out invaders. But it was not until the rule of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huangdi, that the decision was made to connect the many walls together into one long wall, the Great Wall, for added protection. That was over 2,000 years ago. Work continued on the Great Wall for another 1,500 years. Wow, that's a long time. Soldiers, prisoners, and peasants struggled to obey the orders of each new and powerful emperor of China who wanted to finish the wall. It was not an easy task. The wall stretched out across the land like a giant dragon, often built on the highest ground like mountain ridges to make it even more difficult for people to cross. Donkeys and goats were sometimes used to transport. That means to move from one place to another. They were used to transport building materials. But people did most of the work. With baskets slung over their backs, balanced on poles across their shoulders, they worked from sunrise to sunset, building and repairing the Great Wall. The work was very dangerous, and many workers died in the process. Spanning 4,000 miles across northern China, the Great Wall was built to act like a fort. At intervals along the way, watchtowers were erected or built on the wall. At one time, there were nearly 25,000 watchtowers. Supplies were stored inside these tall spires: bows, arrows, cooking tools, and medicines. Soldiers posted atop the lookout towers. They kept watch to see if anyone was trying to invade. If they sensed danger, they used flags and drums to send signals. At night, fires along the wall alerted the Chinese soldiers of possible attacks. Beneath the towers, soldiers who were camped in tents also watched for signals, ready to come to the defense of the wall and all of the people behind it at a moment's notice. New roads were continually built to reach the wall. Every day, Chinese people from near and far moved closer to the construction in order to provide the soldiers and workers with their everyday needs. Some grew crops, others cooked food for soldiers and workers, and others made their tools and clothing. Irrigation canals were dug to supply everyone with water. For many years, people worked very hard to fulfill the emperor's dream of one continuous wall. The building of the wall was a project that lasted many people's lifetimes, passing from one generation to the next. It was an enormously long and difficult project. With all of that hard work, do you think the Great Wall protected as the Chinese planned for it? Yes, it did. For much of Chinese history, at least, there were times when some determined warriors broke through that wall. On 2 occasions lasting for hundreds of years, nomads from Central Asia forced the Chinese people to live under their harsh rule. Today, the Great Wall is no longer used as a means of protection. Rather, it has become a tourist attraction. That means people come from all over the world to see it, walk on it, and learn more about it. It is truly a wonder of the world. Parts of the Great Wall have crumbled, but there are still many parts of it where you can walk along the same bricks and stones as the soldiers of long ago. Some people even paid money to sleep in the watchtowers. One day, that could be you.